a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the DC streets this weekend. They were rough and tough, but we're rougher and tougher. Look at these people here. Nothing, you know, they're not going to be your local school teacher. Look at this guy. He has killed people numerous times. They're not going to be an asset. They will never be an asset to society. I don't care. I know we all want to say, oh, they're going to be.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Some Random Guy Speaks. Yeah, it looks like it's live here. You know, Trump once again is winning his winning policies for 2025. I'm your host, Tony G, and we're about to get started. I'm going to go ahead and play this live stream here. Therefore, you guys can watch and observe, sit back and relax, and we're going to talk about it. Let's go.
Be rehabbed. It's not going to be rehabbed. I'm going to ask Doug Burgum to come up and say a couple of words because he's in charge, as you know. He's Interior, but he's in charge of the U.S. Park Police. And I've heard so many great things about the Park Police. They're proud of it. They've been there for a long time. Their families oftentimes grow into the roles. They love the country. They love this area. So, Doug, could you say a few words, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the U.S. Park Police, this is the oldest federal police force in the nation. They were formed in 1791 by none other than President George Washington. They've got the awesome responsibility of protecting our nation's most sacred monuments. The National Mall, Washington Monument, Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Statue of Liberty, and out west, the Presidio and the Golden Gate area. These folks have tens of millions of visitors a year, the kind of people that President Trump's talking about that come from around the country and around the world to see our sacred and learn about our history and our sacred monuments. They've been doing a fantastic job, but they are so pleased, the rank and file, that President Trump is now allowing them to enforce the law. As those of you that live in the city may know, that the circles and the triangle parks that are spread throughout DC are actually federal park property. So the U.S. Park Police also have responsibility for that. These became littered with homeless camps under the Biden administration. All of you saw that. Since President Trump's executive order on March 27th, making DC safe and beautiful again, the U.S. Park Police have removed over 70 homeless camps. And President Trump also talked about beautification. They're stopping in enforcing the laws against graffiti on our monuments. They've removed over 80 specific attacks against our history with graffiti on our monuments. So they continue to do a great job, whether it's in their vehicles, on foot, or on the mounted police that you see around the National Mall. And President Trump, they thank you. The rank and file is so happy to be enforcing the law again. Thank you for your leadership. And they're excited about the announcement you're making today.
Thank you. Very good. Great job. Thank you very much. Pete, could you say something about the military?
Well, Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And at your direction this morning, we've mobilized the DC National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the DC Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the president noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing, working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful. And as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong. We're right behind you. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm going to ask Pam, because she's now, as you heard me say, she's really in charge of a lot of what we're talking about. She's done an incredible job. People are going to start to see the fruits of her labor. And Pam, maybe you could say a few words about what we're talking about here.
Sure, President. Let me be crystal clear. Crime in DC is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. President, thank you for caring about our capital. Families come here every summer. Our museums are free. We have the National Zoo. We have the National Gallery. DC should be a place where everyone can come and feel safe. Behind me and to my side, we have some of the best career law enforcement and prosecutors in the country who are ready to take this on. As the president said, Terry Cole is going to be supervising the Metro Police Department. Gaddy Serralta, our U.S. Marshal, is going to be supervising command and control, the entire operation. Our Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and I will be working with them closely, along with our great FBI Director, Kash Patel. Kash is going to talk to you in a minute about what we did in Virginia recently with Governor Youngkin. Many of you covered that, and it was tremendously successful. Not only that, our secret weapon here in DC is U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, one of the toughest prosecutors and a former judge. And she is going to be talking about juvenile crime, how it's out of control here, and what she's going to do to fight back. No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital. No more teenage girls beating a disabled man to death. No more of that. No more drive-bys. We're going to do everything we can. And working with the ATF Director Driscoll and Commander of the Army, we're going to all work together. That's what we all do in this room. We work together. We fight. Do not underestimate one person in this room. We're going to make DC beautiful. We're going to make DC safe again. One other thing, just at the wharf a few days ago, the area of the wharf, Terry Cole reached out to me, not even nightfall, on the weekend, where so many families in tourists go. A guy's overdosing from fentanyl on a park bench. In the middle of families around, they administer Narcan and saved his life. No more of that. The President of the United States is going to clean up DC, and we're going to be there to help him, and we're going to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Cash, talk about Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia, we had a big success.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for your leadership, Deputy Attorney General, and the rest of our interagency partners. Mr. President, the following is what happens when you let good cops be cops. And I just want to highlight that before I get into Northern Virginia. This year alone, under President Trump's administration, we've had over 4,000 child victims identified and found. That's a 33% increase from the same time period last year. 33% increase. We've had a seizure of 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl up to this date. That is a 25% increase since the same time period last year. And just to put it in perspective, 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl is enough to kill 115 million Americans. 115 million Americans. Cops are getting after it. The FBI has arrested 19,000 people this year alone. Thanks to President Trump's administrations, that's double than where we were this time last year. And we have also arrested 1,600 people who have committed violent acts against children. 270 of them are human traffickers of children. Mr. President, this is what happens when you have great leadership at the Attorney General with Pam Bondi, your administration's priority of protecting the homeland and protecting American citizens and protecting our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities. And how do we do it? And what are we going to bring to D.C.? What we did in Northern Virginia, thanks to Terry Cole and Governor Youngkin and the team, we stood up a task force out in my Northern Virginia field office, and we said, let's let good cops be cops. Let's get them the intelligence and what they need, and let's get the red tape out of their way, and let's get DOJ partnered up with us to bring great prosecutions. And that's exactly what we did. In 1 month, we arrested 545 violent felons, 545 in the state of Virginia, thanks to Governor Youngkin's partnership. And that simplicity in law enforcement is what's coming to Washington, D.C. When you let good cops be cops, when you give them the intel they need, when you work with our Homeland Security Task Force, when you work with Terry and Gaddy and I go way back to Miami, these guys are great leaders of the respective departments and law enforcement capacities. And when you have the DOJ and President Trump driving behind this mission, We are going to clean up Washington, D.C., and we're going to do it the right way, the lawful way, and we're going to make sure Washington, D.C. is safe again. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cash. So the process begins right now. It actually started over the weekend. We confronted a lot of very bad people, but it's going to be something that will be pretty amazing to you as you watch it. And I think most of you say it's a beautiful thing to do it right. We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on. They're very dirty, got a lot of problems. But we've already started that. We're moving the encampments away, trying to take care of people. Some of those people, we don't know how they even got there. Some of those people are from different countries, different parts of the world. Nobody knows who they are. They have no idea, but they're there. Getting rid of the people from underpasses and public spaces from all over the city. There are many places that they can go, and we're going to help them as much as you can help. But they'll not be allowed to turn our capital into a wasteland for the world to see. The Metropolitan Police Department and the federal authorities will be supported in the effort, a really big effort, the 800 DC National Guardsmen that we'll put on, and much more if necessary, much more. You remember I said, I offered 10,000 once. Remember I said to a certain person, person who I thought always was highly overrated, not very competent. But I said, if you need them, we'll give you 10,000 of the military or the National Guard.
All right.
Me
We
down.
have here Brother
But if
Omega.
necessary, we're going to
The
move
legend.
service members.
Hold on for a minute. Let me just go ahead and kill that for a minute. So we are hearing Trump and things and policies that he's been implementing. But right now we have Omega on stage here. Let me see here. Yeah, you're on stage. And what's going on with you, Omega? Whoops. Is your mic on? Let me see. Are you unmuted? Okay. Unmute. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Omega. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. I was muted. Never mind.
Okay.
I figured it
Yeah, I
out.
saw that. Yeah, okay. All right. So yeah, we have the legend, Omega, in the house, once again.
Yeah.
So so what's been going on with you?
Nothing much. I've been scratching my head over some of the things Trump's been saying for the past couple of days, and some of it just seems kind of loopy and how would you say pandering to the donor class, and
Okay.
and to me that's kind of bothersome.
Right. I have heard people mention their concerns with the Trump thing and the donor class. Let me ask you this though, before we get into it. How do you feel? Okay, I know Glenn asked you a few weeks ago. Do you think that Trump is owned and bought by Israel?
No, I personally think he's owned and bought by the banker investor class here in the United States. Now, some could argue that the donor and banker class are bought by Israel, but to be honest with you, okay, Israel doesn't have enough GDP to even buy one state, let alone an entire country.
True.
I mean, that's like saying Detroit bought Michigan.
Right. Exactly.
So effectively, there's a lot of people who like to play to this conspiracy theory, and I hate to use that term, but
Sure.
A lot of people buy into this conspiracy theory, not realizing what's going on. I could tell you from my own military experience, being deployed under the UN banner, going to Sinai, and when I had that deployment, our job was to make sure Israel stayed on their side and Egypt stayed on their side. Really, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't really Israel we were keeping on their side. It was actually Palestine. But you also had insurgencies that with the Israeli military forcing the Palestinians onto the into the Sinai region. So it was a messy, convoluted thing, and our job was basically to keep one side on one side and the other side on the other side. And we were authorized to be in Sinai on the behalf of the Egyptians, because if I recall correctly, that in and of itself was a messy situation even then, because that was, I think, shortly before the coup d'état that got rid of the last president and made it a short-term military dictatorship. I'm not too privy on, I'm not too privy or savvy on Egyptian politics, but I do recall that shortly after my UN deployment, there was that coup d'état that ended up happening, and they got rid of that one president. Then right after that, the what's that called again? The Muslim Brotherhood
Yeah.
stepped in, and then the military got rid of them as well.
Right. So let
We're
me ask,
talking like we're talking like this is 2003, 2004.
right, exactly. So what do you think they're coming up with? And I know that on the left they have a lot to do with they love pushing the conspiracy theories. We've seen it in the past, yada yada yada. But they're seen to run with the Israeli thing a lot. It seemed that Israel itself always seemed to be like an scapegoat for conspiracy. I'm not saying that they're perfect. I mean, with Mossad and all that. But go ahead.
Well, they've been a scapegoat for thousands of years. Okay,
yes, sir.
It's like, okay, goes back to the time of the Egyptians. They complained about the people they called the Habiru. Habiru is where we get the word Hebrew from. Okay, the Habiru were, according to the Egyptians, they were what's that word called again? They were sanctuary seekers. They came from Canaan and Samaria, and basically mixed in with the Egyptians for a hot minute, and then the Egyptians wanted to get rid of them, and it was mostly because if you go by the Egyptian side of the story and just completely ignore what the Bible says, right? If you go to the Egyptian side of the story was that there was not really any slavery. There was a conscription requirement of all citizens. And what happens is that, like, no, if you read the actual history written in stone, right, it says that if you can't pay a certain tax, in order to pay the tax, you can option for conscription. Now, the pyramids and all of that stuff, that was built by conscripted people who couldn't pay taxes. And the people were actually fed pretty well if they couldn't do it. In fact, they were probably fed better working under conscription than they would have been if they were to just pay the tax.
Right.
So a lot of people, even rich people, would just go into conscription, do like, okay, I'll pay half of it and I'll do half the rest of it in conscription, just so that they could actually get a better meal. So the funny thing about that is that the to go along with that, you have to abide by the Egyptian gods and stuff like that. And the Jews, being henotheistic at the time, they believe that basically, well, the other gods exist, but we only honor our own God. So that being the case, that became a thorn in the side of the Egyptians, because a few generations prior, they had their own issues with monotheism through Akhenaten, and the Egyptians didn't too much care for monotheism. Henotheism and monotheism are similar, except for monotheism basically says there's only one God, and anything else you say is a God is actually a demon. But then henotheism posits that, well, there are other gods, but those other gods don't matter. They shouldn't matter, and only our God matters. That's why in the Bible it says, place no other gods before me. Now, that being the case, that being the case, because they didn't want to honor it and stuff like that, they ghettoized the Habiru and kept them in the the northeast region, which they call Goshen, and basically riots happened and stuff like that, and the Egyptians basically were like, yeah, you know what, you guys need to get the heck out of here, and then they didn't want to leave. Then after that, the next problem was that they started gaining money. And when they started gaining money and becoming more rich than the average Egyptian, that was when they dropped the hammer on them. You know what I mean? That was when they basically increased their taxes and then forced them to be conscripted at the same time. So that's where the biblical narrative of being in slavery came from.
Right.
So yeah, that's the Egyptian side of the story. Now then you leave Egypt and you go into their nomad age. The nomad age, wherever they went, they ended up prospering because they figured out how the system worked, and then basically, became richer than the average person, which pissed off the locals. The same could be said about the Chinese in Indonesia, right? The richest people in Indonesia are all China, all Chinese. So the thing is, it's just like, for example, if we speed up the process and make it be known that a lot of the richest black people in America just don't have to be Nigerian, right? Which Nigerians tend to be richer than the average white person in America. If we let this persist and then let it be known to other black people, like, yeah, that's not an average black American, that's a Nigerian, and keep letting them know that, eventually resentment towards Nigerians will build up with black Americans. It's actually starting right now because black Americans are starting to notice.
Yeah, but I was about to mention that. Yeah, I was about to mention that because you got the FBAs, you got ADOS. I mean, they were like you have Tariq Nasheed, which is FBA. So you're right. There is a lot of resentment right now towards the Nigerians, which is the conglomerate of them they're actually over there in Texas, as most people know.
Yep.
The Indians are there as well, you know what I'm saying? And it's conducive to Africa, Texas, the weather similarities, though. I remember I rode through Texas myself. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So what happens with the Jews? Let's get past the Jesus part, and let's get past the Roman Empire. Nero destroyed the temple, blah 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 blah. And then they have a diaspora into Europe now, and a diaspora into Africa. Well, for a hot minute, the Jews that were in Africa were looked at as being imposing. Menelik II, the Jewish king of Ethiopia.
Right.
You have Menelik. Then you have all of the Jews that went into Europe. What happened was they when Christianity rose in Europe, they began to, and this is part of the Nicene Creed. Nicene Creed basically wanted to de-Judify Christianity and make it more European and pagan, because I tell people all the time, I'm like, Christianity is more pagan than you believe, because if you go back to the original doctrine, there is no hell. There's only heaven and the grave. That's it.
Right.
And then the fire pit doesn't exist until after the second resurrection, if you actually stick to doctrine.
Right. Yeah,
you don't die and go.
The Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, the birth date, Constantine, the whole deal. But go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to go past that. Now the Jews are in Europe, and they are prevented from holding any job. They're prevented from holding any job except for the jobs the Christians believe were beneath Christianity, such as banking. So now because they believe that, well, you can't do usury, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the loophole in Judaism is that you can't do usury on other Jews, but if another society promotes usurism, as long as you do not commit usurism against other Jews, you can do usurism. So Therefore, a mutual accord was struck where the Jews ended up running the banks. Now, the conspiracy theory started because, well, if you give them control of the money, then whoever controls the money controls the state.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
Right. Right. Okay. So it makes a lot of sense why there's people that have a hostility towards Jews, just like they have a hostility for certain ethnic groups that tend to flourish, like how you explained how they came out of Egypt, they migrated into Europe. Was it Russia? You got Germany, most famous for obvious reasons, and from that point,
well, it's because they outgamed the locals.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. They outgained the locals. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can tell you like this. Okay, it didn't happen with Liberia. It started at first with Liberia, but then Liberia collapsed, right? But I can almost guarantee you can get any Pookie or Ray Ray from here, give him a little knowledge on economics, and send him over to Africa. He will outgame the Africans in Africa.
Yeah, that's what. Here it is. South Africa. Here's a prime example, right? The whites, as you already know, they came there, got the land. I know the history of apartheid and all that. Yeah, but now that apartheid is over with, I mean, the whites with South Africans, they agreed with the whites for them being there. They mostly, about over 90% of the land? To the Afrikaners, or they call them South Africans now. So it's like the same thing, though. It's like history. It's the same situation, though. But go right ahead. I mean, this is very interesting.
Yeah. So effectively, the same thing is happening now. I mean, the second richest demographic in America just so happen to be the Jews. They are the second. A lot of people think they're the first. No, they're not the first. They're the second. Okay. The irony is that the richest demographic among all Americans are first and second generation Irish, because most of the banks are owned by Irishmen.
Right.
So the thing is, everybody want to say the Jews. I'm like, no, it's a lot more convoluted than that.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So for Israel to buy politicians here in the United States, either we have politicians that that are low cunning and have very small scruples as it comes to money, or somehow or another Israel is hiding the truth of their GDP. I'm going to go with the former, because I always question, how is it that we have so many politicians that automatically somehow or another become rich in politics? They're being bought. Okay.
Excuse me. They're being bought, but and that's the other question. I mean, you pretty much know. I'm just going to flat out and say it too. I mean, I'm sure you agree. We have the donor. I've been mentioning about the donor class, right? We have a few of them. It ain't just one, right? We're talking about the military-industrial complex. We're talking about the pharmaceutical-industrial complex, which are the biggest donor classes. And these are the people that control
big pharma,
all politicians, left and right, right? And they've been doing this for
big pharma, big ag,
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And they've been doing this for a very, very long time. In fact, when we start looking at it and things, when we thinking that we're voting for a president or a senator or a congressman, we really are not. I've been saying that and I'm sure you agree with this as well, but these people are selected by the super donors, right? That we talked about before.
Well, I mean, let's go with the earliest known example of this. Okay, the earliest known example of this is Woodrow Wilson. He was paid for. He was paid for by Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan.
J.P. Morgan, exactly. Yep.
I
agree.
In fact, I always tell people, I always ask people, with the exception of Kennedy, Name a Democrat president that wasn't bought out by the banks.
I cannot name one.
Exactly.
I cannot name
But
one.
Clinton, both Clintons were supported by the Goldman Sachs. Obama was held up by Goldman Sachs. I mean,
That's
Goldman
correct.
Sachs is a bank for business and ultra rich people. I mean, you have to have a $10,000 deposit to even open an account with them.
That's correct. That's correct.
So the question becomes, who's catering to big money now? You know,
Right.
the Democrats have a very cunning way of flipping the script to make it look like they're not doing what they're doing. They're basically following what's my man's name again? Rules of Radicals. Saul Alinsky. You know,
yeah, exactly.
Accuse your opponents of what you're actively doing in order to sow discord.
That's correct. That's correct. And then when we're looking at this thing, Omega, man, I mean, with these politicians, the whole deal, as we said before, you know, and with the Democrats as well. And when I say the Democrats, I'm also talking about the rhinos as well, too. Because that's what I said, it's a uniparty. You and I both know it's a uniparty, right? Where you have Republicans, Democrats that have been on the take. And they've been doing this for a long time. This is one of them. You know yourself that this is why nothing ish never got done before. Because when we talk about the fascism and everything, I mean, we know where it was like you said. Originally, it came from the left, right? Now look at it. We have far right. I mean, I'm sorry, far left.
It's not really the left. Okay.
No,
Remember what I told you. I said, you know, the Democrats are basically right wingers who utilize left wingers as tools. Okay, the left wingers are tools. Now the left wingers are starting to try to take control, and guess what? It's freaking the actual Democrats out. You know, the people like Mamdani and what's her name again, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
AOC,
they're freaking out the actual Democrats, the actual Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and all of them. You know, Nancy Pelosi, she's bowing out now. You know, and then if you notice, there are Democrats that are slowly but surely bowing out. And it's all because they realize they screwed themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You're 100% correct on that. 100%.
Yeah, they sold themselves. They wanted that one ring. You know, we're gonna use the what's that called again? The Lord of the Rings reference. They thought that they could handle that one ring, and that one ring
rules them all. One ring rules them all.
Right, and that ring doesn't have to be the left, because if you know history, prior to LBJ, both sides hated the left.
That's right.
Before LBJ, both sides considered the left to be seditious.
Right. Exactly. And that's where the new party is heading towards, which is socialism. It's always communism, but socialism first. Communism. I know you ran it down to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And this is where it is. So, but it's already revealed. I think that some of the other people that don't realize what's coming in, because how they catch them, how they hook them, like Mamdani promised all this and that in the third, right? We're going to attack the rich. We're going to go out. If we look at Germany, I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, you start hearing the same type, you know, of rhetoric that is being implemented on the people of New York and things like that, because they bought
not just New York, but they just elected a commie socialist and what's that called? Seattle, Washington, who's saying the same thing.
Yeah, he said. Yeah, the person is saying the same thing, though. You know, Omar Fatah, he didn't get in there as the mayor in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. I'm talking about the Somali socialists over there. You know what I'm saying? He didn't win. People.
Well, he's actually the opposite of Mamdani. Okay, Mamdani is a socialist LARPing as a Muslim. This guy is a Muslim LARPing as a socialist.
Yep, there we go. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
and people saw through that. They said, no, you're not a real socialist.
Right.
You're a Muslim that's trying to pretend to be a socialist. Now,
Right.
in the case of Mamdani, he got the Muslims behind him because he pretended to be a Muslim when he's really, and he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's an atheist. He's more like an agnostic. He's an agnostic socialist.
Got you. Right.
But because he speaks Arabic and he was raised in an Islamic society, he knows how to play the Muslim voters.
Yeah, because if you remember though, Omega, he didn't. When they asked him was he a Muslim, he avoided the question all the way up until the point of when it was coming down to the election, because he didn't want to denounce the Fatah. He didn't want to. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that he didn't want to. He still doesn't criticize Fatah. He doesn't criticize him at all. He's actually so this is where the problem is regards to that. But go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is that the left follows a single-minded approach here, okay? And that single-minded approach is the Nietzschean concept of there's no truth but power. So what happens is that they'll do anything for power, including LARPing, pretending they're one thing when they're not, all that nice stuff. They'll sit back and okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, let's say I'm a leftist, right? I'll sit back and I'll go to the black community, and everybody hears how I speak and everything like that. But I'll go into the black community and say, "Yo, what's up, dog?" Blah 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 blah. Speaking jive, just so that I could get the black community behind me. Not really selling up. Yeah. Not giving them any substance, just giving them what they want to hear. And that's pretty much what Mamdani did with the Muslims. He gave them what they wanted to hear so that they could give him his vote, give him their votes. So basically,
same thing they did in Dearborn. Yep, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's same thing that what's her name does. I call her Rashida Taliban. That's what I call her. Rashida Tlaib.
Oh yeah, I got a comment here. Hold on for one moment to make up. Brando Media says, MAGA, is it gay for Trump to have sucked Baba's saxophone? Was that gay? Okay, yeah, okay. But go ahead, Omega.
Yeah, that right there is a classic example of idiotic commentary. The fact of the matter is that with the left, all they care about is obtaining power. Okay, and the worst part is, and I brought this up the last time I was on with you, right?
Yeah.
The left of power is like a dog chasing a car. Okay. They spend all the time chasing the car, but don't know what the hell to do with it once they catch the car. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with the left. They want power, and once they get it, everything they do will destroy the power that they had sought. Like, for example, already there are people leaving New York. According to one estimate, since Mamdani won the election, 40,000 people have left New York City.
Hold on for one moment, Omega. We're gonna talk about that. Hey, Brando, I read your comments and I gave you a shot. If you can't say anything constructive, it's okay to disagree with the MAGA and all that. That's okay. But if you could come in here and throw gay insults and all this other stuff, because it's not working, I'd much rather for you to say, I don't agree with MAGA, and let me give you the reason why. So you gotta say something a little bit more constructive. That's what I'm asking.
That's a non-starter conversation anyway, because the point of his commentary is simply to throw us off, derail us basically.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
and the thing is that to me, a derailment tactic is a childish mode of communication. So in other words, I would regard him no different than I would a 5-year-old.
True. True.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
I'll just put him in timeout and just tell him no cookies.
Okay.
And he has to eat a plate full of vegetables.
I know, right? So Brando, you got one more shot at this, man, and things like that. So you got one more shot. That's all I'm asking. We can't come over here and have a constructive. I don't want to hear anything about no gay insults or any of this other stuff. Let's talk about Trump's relationship with Katie Johnson. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead. I gave you a shot. You want to come in here, and I tried. We go and put you in timeout. Yep, go ahead and put him in timeout. Yep. All right, Brando, I gave you a shot. So I guess you don't think that fat meat is greasy. But go ahead, I'll make her continue. I'm not going to waste time with that. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So effectively, the left only cares about power. And it's just like Mamdani with the, what's that called again? The public option grocery stores. Okay. I'm going to tell you how that one will play out. First of all, because the prices will be lowered because there's a nonprofit there's a nonprofit incentive here. Okay, that means that the prices will be lower. I will give them that. But here's the problem. That will shut down all of the other bodegas and stores in New York City. Then once those close down, now everyone is clown carring the public grocery stores. They're probably not going to be staffed properly to handle the load. Okay, and then you'll have shortages. Now you have the conditions for high demand and low supply. Inevitably, the problem will persist. That price will go up because of the disparity of supply and demand. Okay, that's just a matter of nature. If the only way to dissuade people from over purchasing is either to limit the purchase or raise prices. Just like you can go to Aldi right now. Aldi has eggs for $1.89, but you're only limited to 2 cartons of eggs.
Yeah.
And that's to maintain the $1.90 price. While you go to any of the other grocery stores, how much is a carton of eggs now? Like 3 something. You go to Meijer, you're probably paying like $2.69 or some crap like that.
Yeah, for the bottom grade though, because I know the brown eggs, and we even talked about the ones that doesn't have the pesticides and insecticides. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So effectively, if you overconsume, the limiting factor is raising the price. That's how economics work. And the thing is that leftists are people who are economically illiterate. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how the hell Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez supposedly has a bachelor's degree in economics and don't understand basic economics. I don't even have an economics degree. I'm more of an engineer, and I understand the economy better than she does, and she has a degree in it. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Well, I mean, here's my thing about it. If you want my take on it, in my opinion, because the Democratic left gave her the opportunity, when she became a Democrat, and then when she won in her district, Congress woman or whatever like that, and look at all the money, because she's worth some millions. She got some millions and stuff like that. So placate to their constituents. You know what I'm saying? This is just my opinion.
Well, it's not even her constituents, to be honest with you. She's getting money from other states. See what I mean? That's the killer thing. She's not getting many donations from her own district. Most of her donations are being gained across the country, if not from foreign interests.
Now, you and I both know that that's illegal when you say foreign. So
Yeah.
you know, because that's the thing with the Mondami that they caught him on. Remember, he all that money that was poured in, foreign interest as
Yep.
well, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
yeah. So this is what I think, and in my opinion, you know how this thing is going to play out. I believe that Trump is going to be the victor still because people, even though everybody, you can't have an agreement 100% with the president, and I agree with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing I wanted to talk to you about were a couple of things that I don't agree with Trump about, as far as letting all of these Chinese students in, as well as all of this H-1B
Sure.
visa crap. I
Okay,
don't agree
well,
with any of that.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna talk about that right now. I've been looking
Okay.
into this. What's going on? Trump looked at the data, right? He said
Yeah.
this is what Trump looked at. He said, if I were to get rid of 600,000 Chinese that are here with the visas and all that. So here's the thing. Most of these people are engineers, right? Now I'm gonna keep on going here with this thing. The Chinese that
Okay.
are here, that are working here, because like I said, the tech jobs is here. He got to have people that's up and running to go. Now there are going to be training for Americans, but let's just look at it. Now look at the other flip side. We have a lot of Americans, right, that take up BS school, trade, they're not even trade. It's just this BS human liberal arts and all this other stuff where they don't have the discipline to be able to do these tech jobs, right? These engineering jobs. So he's kind of forced in a situation, right, where I said, okay, I got to bite my nose to smite my face, or whatever the saying is. And that's exactly what is going on when we really think about it. I mean, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say like this. We have a gangrenous limb. He's trying to save the limb. I say cut the bastard off. Okay. Here's my perspective of it. Okay. Yeah, you got a bunch of entitled, worthless. You have a bunch of entitled Americans who have been snookered by the everyone is special. Here's your participation award, Department of Education. Okay. Here's the thing. Instead of talking about free college, this and that and the other, okay, what I would do is look at what we need, right, and cater all of our student loans and what have you towards towards the things we need. The things we don't need, cut that off. You want a feminist dance theory class? Well, no grant for you. No student loan for you. You're gonna pay for that on your own. But if you want to go into STEM, oh yeah, we're gonna make sure you get everything you need for that. Okay, that's the first thing. Second of all, you got to understand this too. Those Chinese students, they have family in China, and China has a history of turning the screws on their own citizens. So in other words, you can have a Chinese student here who's doing some high-level research or whatever. All they have to say is, oh, you know your mom in Shandong? Well, we already have a couple of agents on your mom in Shandong, and if you don't do what we tell you, your mom is going to be gulagged. So now you got the state turning the screws on them, and they will steal intellectual secrets of the United States in order to protect their mom. So if that's the case, then don't take them. Not all money is good money. You know, I excuse my language, but fuck them. So that means basically no more Chinese. Okay, you want to come to the United States, your government can't hold you to account on some things that will be detrimental to us. That's what it literally means to be America first.
Okay, right.
So,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And that's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it on the tactical level. Tactically, the Trump's position is tactically deficient.
Yeah, and like I said, here's the thing about it, Omega, too. we know when the illegals were brought over here, came from the left and things like that. I mean, a boatload of them under Biden's administration, right? So when a lot of them came over here, they came over here replacing American workers. We all know that, right? So in things like that. But at the same time, I believe that Trump looked at those statistic numbers when it came down to the engineers. We're talking about people that are mechanical, electrics industry, right? Civil, and so forth. The numbers are probably not looking that great, because if we were to look at it, we got more of our youth today that's in these BS. It's not STEM. We don't have an numbering of a STEM. Right now, we haven't been building ships. How long have we not been building ships and everything like that? I mean, they really pretty much gutted the American infrastructures on this type of stuff purposely, coming from the left. This was going on. When you and I both know it, well, Obama, he has done a major damage to American the industrial, as far as with Americans. I'm talking about as far as with us, gutted everything. We were the world leaders in all this stuff, though. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that we have those numbers, and it's kind of like cut a finger to save the rest of the hand, right? And that's basically what it is. You and I may not like it, but in my opinion, I think that's what it is, because once again, we don't have those particular numbers. The Chinese, the Indians, I mean, however we want it.
Okay, I'm gonna say like this. Okay, number one, they don't have the numbers either. That's why they're coming here. Okay, we have the expertise. They're taking the expertise back there. Okay, here, like I said, the college industry is a business. Okay, and they will do what the money is granted. That's why I say cut off universal student loans. Okay, only allow student no fault or I forgot what the stupid terms for it is, but only allow for the student loans to be granted towards what we need. So what happens is that we can do it 2 tiers. Okay, you'll be able to get this low ball amount of a student loan if you get a BS degree. But if you get something that we need, such as mechanical engineer, what have you, right? That's when you that's when you give a better deal on the loan. Okay, and the tech industry themselves are the ones who are doing it. Okay, they're the ones who's giving him these numbers. Okay, because quite frankly, the government, because this is the private sector, it's not the government. The private sector are the ones who give the government the numbers, right? Who's not to say that the private sector is cooking the books? Okay, they're cooking the books. They're cooking the books to basically say, well, this is why we're bringing these people in. So you're telling me, right? You're telling me 2 Indian engineers that are beholden to you. Okay, let me give you the brass tacks on the engineering part, right? If I go there, I'm going to demand, with my degree, I'm going to demand a certain wage, and if you don't give me that wage, I am not loyal to you. What happens is that you can have me sign an NDA. I'll sign that NDA, no big deal, right? I just won't talk about what I did with you. But if I find a job that has a better deal, what happens is, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave. What the H-1B visa does is you have the company sponsoring them, right? All they have to do is adhere to the federal minimum wage. Okay, so what they could do is, let's say a job that I would do that's like $125,000 a year, right? They can hire two Indians who have probably a lower IQ and probably fresh out of school, who never seen this much money in their life. Okay, They could bring them from Rajagopalan or wherever the heck they come from, you know, whatever little podunk town in India, right? Bring them over, get them the degree, and pay them both only $50,000 for a job that normally pays an American $125,000. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's why I say, you know what? If you want to do that, okay, you're going to pay a $100,000 a year tax on each one of those H-1B visas. That'll cut that down. Then, on top of which, what happens is that, you know, you're going to have to give me a good reason why you chose not to hire American in order to get rid of that tax burden. Because all you're doing is basically, we have the expertise. The problem is they want a slave class, because when I, like, as a company, let's just say I own a tech company, right? If I do an H-1B visa, I could bring those 2 Indians for the price of 1 American. They can't leave. I can overwork them. I could put them on a salary, overwork them. No American will put up with that. Because they're happy.
Right. I was just saying.
Because they're happy to be here, they will do it for cheaper. That's the real issue.
Right. And I get where you're going with that. I remember when it had the live, I've been talked about that H-1B visa, for the same reason you're talking about. You're 100% correct, Omega. But here's the thing about it, because you also mentioned too, I know I mentioned it on the show as well, because at the time it was $1,000 to bring in, let's say, Indians. They hold 70% of the actual H-1B visas, right? 70% of them for the Indians alone, right? So when Trump looked at all this, because like he even said, it was unfair to the American workers. And this is one of the reasons why he charged more for, let's say, for the fees, which is $100,000, which would cause the slowdown or the influx of Indian workers, because it does hurt the business. It hurts America and it hurts the American worker. You would think
it drives down wages.
It drives down the wages. In fact, I pulled up this some information here while we were talking, and let me go and pull this back up, because they were talking about the number of engineers and so forth. Approximately 2.57 million workers employed in the architecture and the engineering occupations, right? I know you alluded to the books are cooked. Now, this is coming from 2025. So I know Trump has been straightening out those books, because if I go on the old data, it's going to be misconstrued greatly, right? But when we look at the salaries, right, and things like that, now the when we talk about the median salaries for these workers, right? Okay. So for civil engineer, check this out. $99,590 for just a civil engineer. Mechanical engineers, $99,510, right? And then we have electrical and electronic engineers, $106,950. Industrial engineers, they make about $99,380, and then software developers, a whopping of $130,160, right? So we're averaging for all engineers in aerospace, biomedical, and environmental, it's averaging about $100,000 right there.
Right.
So when these Indians come in here, we know that they're not getting this.
Exactly.
They're like what you were saying, you know, and they're not getting this at all.
And they can, and because the company sponsors their visa, they can't leave. If they try to change jobs, guess what happened to their visa? It's canceled. That means now they're here illegally. So basically, they're a slave class.
Yeah.
They're a slave class. That's all it is.
Yep, that's all it is. You're absolutely correct.
So you know, we have the expertise. The problem is they don't want to pay the experts the money the experts are asking for. That's the reason why I'm not doing mechanical engineering and why I'm driving a dang truck.
Hey, now you make a good point about that, because I kind of, you know, before you mention that, Omega, I kind of figured why, and I think I alluded to it with other people, that it drove a lot of American engineers out of the industry, right? But here's the thing about it, though. Now that Trump, he has, let's say, like I said before, there's a fees on the H-1B visas, like $100,000. So for these people, now for the people that's Indian that's already here, let me ask you this question. This is very good question. For the people that have been grandfathered under the old fees for $1,000 for a company page for an H-1B sponsor, for them coming over here, what, since the new policies and change, are they going to retro that back, or how does that work? How does that work for the ones that are already?
It all depends. From what I understand, it all depends upon their green card status. If they have a green card, you know, that's not considered a no longer under the visa program. However, if you're still under a visa, they're going to charge.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
You know,
yeah.
if you went from visa to green card holder, then you know you're regarded no differently than an American citizen.
Do you think that that's what happened in most cases with a lot of the Indians in here?
No, because you got to go through sponsorship. You got to go through sponsorship going from H-1B to green card, from what I understand. So what happens is a lot of these companies, it's not beneficial to the company to sponsor these people to get their green card. Because now once they get that green card and they realize what the Americans are being paid, right, compared to what they were under the H-1B, now they're going to want more money.
Right, exactly.
So that being the case, it is a perverse incentive for the company to not get them a green card. Just keep them on the H-1B program and let it roll like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're making a lot of great points in regards to it, and I mean, so what do you think what is your opinion? What's going to happen now? You got $100,000 for the H-1B visas. They're going to be locked in. Go ahead.
If you notice, who are some of the biggest? Who are the biggest donors to Trump and his campaign at this moment? Oh, you look at who was there at his inauguration. You know, as far as the billionaires and all of that stuff. You know,
Elon Musk is at the top of the heap. He's top of the chain.
Right. But you still got Bezos, you still got Bill Gates, you still got Zuckerberg, and you still got all of them, right?
Yeah.
They still want the H-1Bs. And then they're trying to phase out the H-1Bs for AI. Okay.
Yeah.
So that being the case, who's going to be the AI technicians? Oh, they're going to lie and say, well, this 95 IQ person from this podunk area in the third world is better suited than this 115 IQ American who did the same thing.
Right. Oh yeah. Here's Joe. Here's Joe on here, man. Hey, Joe. Hold on for a minute, Omega. Joe says, here's my question. Why should Americans buy product engineered by Americans that can't be worked on and sent to a dealer to be fixed, i.e. John Deere? That's a good point. That's a good question there, Joe Mama.
It is. I personally think, you know what, because this is a way to circumvent the fact that I'm going to tell you something that you probably know about but never really talked about. 10 years ago, Apple and a few other companies banded together and tried to lobby California, because they figured if they lobbied California, just like how the no-fault divorce thing happened, started in California, then it spread across the country like a plague. they figured that if they start in California, it will spread out across the United States, and that is the abdication of right to repair. Okay, so what happens is that it never passed. Okay, it passed that if you buy a product, it's your product, and the company cannot force the consumer to come back to them in order to have repairs made. So since they couldn't legislate it, what they did was they re-engineered things to where if you and Apple is the worst company as far as that's concerned. Okay, they engineer it to the point to where if it breaks, you have no choice but to go back to the dealership instead of finding your own repairman or learning how to fix it yourself. Because a business is only out for one thing, and that's to make money. They don't care about loyalty. Only loyalty, just like Apple, the only loyalty they want is for you to be a milkable sheep for exclusive peripherals and whatnot that only comes from them, so that they can make money. Okay,
Right.
Like I said, Apple is the worst one. I'll tell you a perfect example. I have a buddy of mine who's he's into computer hardware engineering and stuff like that. And his little side gig is that he repairs people's computers. Okay, well, he had a customer that basically went to Apple for a problem that's easily fixed. When they looked at it, they said, "Well, you know what? You're gonna have to buy a whole new laptop." Okay. He said that was BS. He said that was BS and went to my friend. My friend was like, "Oh, the linkage cable from the screen to the motherboard has a little bit of corrosion. This is easily fixed. Let's desolder this cable, and then after we desolder the cable, we clean off the cable, put an extension on it, and then resolder the cable back onto the motherboard. And guess what? The screen worked."
Right. Right.
You
Well,
see,
yeah,
Apple,
and I hear your point of it because with Apple, and that's a very good example of that. Though they're already a proprietary anyway. You know what I'm saying? So, most Sony is another one, right? I mean, I can name.
well, Sony is nowhere near as bad as
They're not.
as Apple.
They're not. Well, I'm talking about parts. They were, like.
Well, no, you're thinking Samsung. Samsung is that way. That's
Okay.
Samsung.
Okay.
Sony. The problem with Sony is you have to know where to get the parts.
Right.
You have to contact the right people for the parts.
Right.
But
right,
Samsung is exactly what you're talking about. That's the reason why I would never buy anything Apple or Samsung.
Right.
Screw both companies.
Yep. I'm in agreement with that. You're absolutely right, man. You bring up a lot of great points. Even to Joe Mama's situation. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, this is one of those type of things. I think that what's going on right now, and you explained it a whole lot. Do you see it? Let's say in a positive light. Do you see change to stop what we're talking about right now? Do you see change? Far as with the American worker things that Trump ran on.
The only change I would see is when Trump finally decides that listening to the people who have perverse incentive to lie to him, he stops listening to them. Okay, that's really the only time I would see any kind of change in this, because I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, I did some digging and come to find out. Charlie Kirk himself had a lot to do with the direction that Trump was going into. Okay, if you've noticed, since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Trump has been practically off of his game. Okay, and every politician has an outsider they listen to, who's their color commentary. Okay, I tried to do that with you know who Artesia Bomer is? I called myself trying to be her color commentator until she decided to cut me off, because I told her at one point, I said, "Hey, here's something you might want to consider while trying to run for mayor of Detroit. You might want to drop the whole Republican thing. You might want to run independent, because you're not going to win as a Republican in Detroit."
You're 100% correct.
And she ended up getting angry at me after she lost running as a Republican, and then blocked me on Facebook and blocked my phone number and all that stuff. And I sat there, I said, well, that's your loss. You're going to continue losing until you realize what I'm telling you is the right thing. I'm trying to be your color commentary to how people think.
Right.
And that's what huh?
Go ahead.
I said, and that's what Charlie Kirk was to Trump. He was Trump's color commentary.
Right.
Okay. And as color commentary, Trump, every time Trump was talking against the H-1B and all of this stuff with the with China and stuff, Charlie Kirk was intrinsically involved. Since his death, and what's her name? His wife, I forgot her name. She isn't as savvy as Charlie Kirk in terms of the political climate is concerned. Now he's left to listen to these people who have a vested interest in basically screwing over America, which is the main corporation. It's like I tell people all the time, I'm not a big fan of big government, but I'm also not a fan of big industry, because the primary difference between big government and big industry is we could at least try to impeach or try to recall the big government. If big industry takes over, it's like RoboCop. You know, RoboCop is a perfect example. If you watch the 1987 film, it's a perfect example. If you paid attention to the backstory, it's a perfect example of what happens when corporate interests overtake government.
Yeah, that's fascism. Point of it, right?
Yeah. So, well, it's not really fascism. It's what we would call corporate technocracy.
Okay. All right.
You know,
well, they still have to say so, though, because we know, like we said before, they control our politicians, they control the presidents in the past and so forth. But going to the Charlie Kirk thing again, though, because you make a great point, and I haven't really thought of that when you were mentioning it, and it's true. I haven't thought of it that way, even though I knew he had a lot to do with MAGA and the success with the young people. He was in Trump's ear, on speed dial and all this other stuff. I mean, more so than Richard K. Bannon. I mean, I'm sorry, Stephen K. Bannon. Stephen was the point guy before, and I think that was it MTG, you know, talked about this too, man. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's kind of drifting on her own thing. But Trump did say, when it come down to MTG, he was saying how she wanted to run for Senate. Trump told her, you won't, you know, you're not going to make it as a senator. You know what I'm saying? And he said this was his reason why he did not gave her the nomination. He didn't do it, you know, on that reason. She got mad, but her boyfriend is best friends with Trump. But
right.
And this is when I'm bringing up these points. Who else has had a problem with Trump? You know, since Charlie Kirk, he was the new shiny object, Turning Point USA and all that. There's people in the MAGA community that are very, very felt slighted. Look at Candace Owens. She was another one. We started to look at
but she was dropped quick. She was dropped as quick as she was picked up.
Yeah. In fact, she's even upset because Turning Point have became so successful. You know, she's been banging on Turning Point USA big time, and she was there. Yeah, go ahead.
She's just a grifter anyway. I mean,
absolutely.
I look at her as a broken clock. She's right every once in a while, but in reality, she's only really doing all of this for fame and money. That's literally all this is.
That's all that literally is. You know, she's actually worse than MTG, to be honest, though, you know, in regards to that. But yeah, we're starting to see people that because I just said, is it a coincidence? You didn't hear from MTG, Candace Owens, and all of them last year. They were all rah-rahing, you know what I'm saying? Even some of these content creators on here that was thought that they were under or assuming that they were going to get something. So yeah, exactly. But So I guess we'll move on to the next thing, though. Besides that, so with the midterms, though, Omega, with the midterms, how confident are you with MAGA in the midterms? Do you still see them? Do you still see it being, let's say, a landslide win for the MAGA?
I'm not gonna say it's a landslide, because I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, a lot of the states that are up for grabs have codified in their constitutions or local laws. I'm just gonna call it as I see it, including Michigan. Michigan is also guilty of this, and that is they codified cheating in their elections. You know, it's election day, not election month and a half.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Michigan has codified election month and a half, 6 weeks of mail in and freaking, what's that called again? Ballot box drops and stuff like that. No, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. That's wiggle room for malfeasance.
Yeah. You're talking about like the mail-in ballots and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, no other country. They want to emulate Europe so badly. Even the Europeans said that mail-in ballots is just a ruse in order to facilitate cheating.
Yeah.
The same people they're trying to emulate.
Yeah. Yeah. They control it. You're right. Michigan, remember they got caught with 2020 stuff in the ballots. Whatever happened to that situation anyway? Because
swept under the rug. Nobody's investigating it, and anyone who tried to investigate it were stayed by the Michigan Supreme Court.
Okay. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So it's all swept under the rug now. In fact, I believe that all of the evidence for it has been destroyed already. So even if the legislature and or the judiciary ends up being replaced, there's no way to investigate the malfeasance.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this one, Omega, man. And I've been wanting to ask you this question. And this is another thing. I'm saving this until now. I know we don't have much time left, but I wanted to ask you, if you were Trump's, you have a term for it, but let's just say if you was his the guy in his ear, you have a knowledge on the street regards to the people, what would be your let's say advice? There we go. To
okay,
Trump.
My advice, don't worry about the colleges. We all have to tighten our belts. It's sink or swim time. Let's take off the water wings. Okay. First of all, screw the Chinese, because all they're trying to do is take our secrets. We want zero Chinese student visas. Zero. Okay. The next thing is, if the colleges do collapse, well, look at what the colleges have been doing for the past 30 years. Okay. Colleges have been basically indoctrinating people to abide with the left. So the thing is, if that's the case, right, then it is you're funding your own detriment. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to cut that spigot off. We need to incentivize colleges to promote more STEM, and the only way to do that is better funding of declared STEM students for student loans and other things, okay? And then give a subsidy to the colleges that specifically focuses on STEM and have removed DEI from their curriculum, okay? Right. The next thing is, okay, give a tax reduction to all of the tech industry that hire a tax subsidy to all of the tech industry that hire Americans. There are more people with bachelor's degrees driving trucks than there are actually doing engineering. Why? Because they don't, as you said before, mechanical engineering, the average baseline for entry level is $99,000 a year.
Yes.
They're trying to tell me, well, you know, we got Anand Rajagopalan here who wants to do the same job, but he's willing to do it for $50,000 or $60,000. The most we're going to pay you is 72.
Right.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to deal with that. I know what the industry average is for this job. I am not going to take 70. I would rather take the industry standard. Give me the 99.
Right.
You see? So now you give a tax incentive, or should I say you give a tax subsidy incentive for these companies to basically hire Americans.
Right.
We have the ingenuity and know-how. It's just that we don't have it for cheap.
Right.
They want it on the cheap.
Yes.
The instant Trump figures that out, the better. Because here's the thing. Everybody, I got into an argument with somebody and said, well, who's going to pick the strawberries and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, they got robots to do that now.
They sure
They literally
do.
have robots to do that. The
They
thing
sure
is,
do.
of course, and they can sort them by size, color, and if they're good or bad.
Yeah.
Okay? I said, so we don't need to bring in J1C migrant workers to pick strawberries.
Right.
The robot can do it. The thing
Sure
is, of course, the robot costs a lot of money. So what we need to do is we need to give some type of subsidy to the companies that make the robots to bring down the cost of the robots in order to do that. Now, what we need then is to subsidize education for the tradesmen, the technicians who do the repairs on the robots. Okay?
Right.
Skip trying to do free college. I want free I want free skilled trades. Well, so many people are so hot and bothered about getting this sexy degree that does nothing instead of being a plumber or a mechanic. We need more plumbers. We need more mechanics. Last time I took my car to a shop, it was sitting there for 3 weeks. I had to rent a car for 3 weeks because they didn't have enough technicians to fix my car in a timely fashion. In fact, it was a repair that would only take about 3 hours to finish. But it sat in a lot for 3 weeks because they didn't have enough technicians to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you raised some great points in regards to the things in regards to Trump taking the emphasis off of the young college kids and so forth like that. If anything, the emphasis, if they're not talking about it already, like you just mentioned, we're talking about the trade industry, right? This is what should be happening. And we don't need college. Charlie Kirk even talked against that, man. You don't go to school. With college today, it's useless. Just a useless degree today.
Well, yeah.
Because
I'm not to cut you off. I don't know if you know who Tim Pool is, right?
I heard of.
Yeah, he used to work for ABC Univision. He basically runs. He's one of the biggest podcasters in America right now. Okay, and he even mentioned it when he hired interns and stuff like that. He said he get a person from college. They always have to ask him. Him being the CEO, they're asking him what do they need to do. He says, "Well, you are a graphics engineer. Why don't you know what you need to do?" See, that's the problem with the education board. The way they got the education set up, they don't teach the students how to think. They just teach them what to think and follow orders. That's it.
True.
That's the problem with the education system. It's set up. You gotta okay. Okay. And the problem with the pedagogical system, that's the system of teachers basically. The problem with it is they are being taught in a 18th century paradigm in the 21st century. Okay, the entire education system hasn't really changed in over 300 years. Okay, the original education system was developed by the Prussian Empire in order to make disciplined soldiers and factory workers. Okay, it's not set up for anything besides soldiers and factory workers. Even now, the rote system of education, basically memorizing certain little paradigms, you know, it makes you marginally educated, but it doesn't teach you how to think on your own. Okay, it just tells you to follow the procedure. And that was one of the things that bothered me, because one of the things I taught science and math. Okay, now I taught some of my students at the charter school I used to teach at. I taught them how to rethink math, how to do math in a different way. You know, like, okay, if you have 5 times 5, 5 times 5 is basically 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. You know, you have to think about the problem in multiple different ways. You know, not just what you see on the paper. You know, and the same thing about basic chemistry and basic biology. You know, you can't just sit back and memorize this kind of stuff. You have to understand it. They don't teach understanding, they teach memorization. That's what rote education is.
Right.
And the thing is that you stand a better chance at memorizing something once you understand it. If you don't understand it, you'll memorize it to pass a test, and then a couple of years later, you don't even remember what you passed the test on.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem with most people who call themselves educated today. Yeah, you got a piece of paper that says you're educated. Let me give you this simple math problem, and they can't figure it out.
Right.
Because they don't understand math. They just did enough to be able to pass a test.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
You know, so that's one of the chief problems with the education system. And like I was saying, going back to Tim Pool, yeah, he had college educated people who don't understand the job. They just memorized everything that they were taught, passed the test, got a piece of paper saying that they're qualified, and they don't know what to do. He said that he took to hiring like the guy Serge, no college education at all. He's the producer. He's the producer.
Right.
No college education at all. He used to work as a DJ. And he just converted his understanding of being a DJ into camera work.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it's a switchboard. Okay. This switch does this switch. Okay. I could change camera angles now. You know, when he had his old producer was college educated, master's degree in media communications, know how to operate a switchboard. So yeah, there are people that is a true statement. There are people without the expertise. The problem is that the people without the expertise are the ones who go to these colleges that prioritize all the BS fluff education, or should I say indoctrination. Tony, you there? Oh, you went silent. But I mean, at the end of the day, the entire point basically is this, is that we do have people who, you know, we do have people who are capable. They just want more money than peanuts to do that job. And these companies just want people to do the job for peanuts. I mean, I can't blame them, because the key point of a company is to get the most work out of the worker at the most valuable price. I mean, I can't blame them on that one. But at the same time, too, if you want some real professionals, you're going to have to you get what you pay for.
Right.
You get what you pay for.
Get what you pay for. You're absolutely correct. You're hitting on a lot of points, though, in regards to this, though, Omega. And do you see Trump overcoming the hurdles that you were mentioning as the advice that you would give him? Do you see him overcoming any of these hurdles? Because the biggest ones right now is going to be the economy and unemployment.
Right.
Employment. I meant to say, but that's going to be that right there. Now he rocks when it comes down to the immigration. In fact, I ain't gonna say rock. I would probably say he's doing.
I'll give him a B minus.
Got you. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, because you can't agree on everything, but that's fair. That's
I'll
fair.
give him a B minus. I'll almost give him a B, but
Right.
I will give him a hard B minus.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Because there's some things. I mean, there's a lot of work. There's some things that definitely need to be done in order for him to be successful in his midterms and things like that. Because right now, man, I mean, you already got civil arrests and so forth that's going on. As far as that, how would you rate him on Antifa? Rating them as domestic terrorists?
I'm gonna have to give him a C minus on that one.
Okay, and now tell me why. I'm curious to know why do you think he deserves a C minus on there? I'm curious.
Well, his approach is passable, but he's not getting to the heart of it. Okay. In fact, he allowed some of these clowns to escape. Okay, they already escaped before they could put them on the no-fly list. Okay, I would have figured them out a long time ago and put them on the no-fly list faster, and then would have rounded them up that way. They waited, and a lot of that is not him. A lot of that is Bongino and Patel. Okay, a lot of that is them too. Now, I had high hopes for both Dan Bongino and Cash Patel.
A lot of us did. Yep. Go ahead.
But I can't nail them to the cross as hard as I can Pam Bondi. Okay, a lot of the stuff that is limiting them is her. She's the real failure in this entire fiasco. Personally, him a C plus if he gets rid of her.
Right. Now let's keep it. Let's go dive into Pam Bondi. She goes back under the rhinos. She goes back with the Bushes, Jeb Bush, and so forth. Right. I mean, talking about Pam Bondi. Right. So I never really seen her as much of a, I guess you could say, a MAGA AG. She's more to me still a rhino AG because she has all the earmarks. You already brought it up, how she ran the whole thing, Epstein, the whole deal. That right there, and so forth. So, yeah, this is another outcry that the people want. The people want to see.
I'm going to say it like this. The people want ice cream for dinner, okay? That's irrelevant.
Yeah, that's irrelevant.
The problem is she speaks before she does, and then when she gets to the do part, she doesn't back up what she says.
Okay, right.
That's the real problem. She opened her mouth too fast. Personally, how I would have handled that situation is really simple. I would have said, okay, here's how we're gonna handle the hold on for a second. I finally made it to my destination thanks to slow trucks. Okay, Lippert. That's the wrong place. But anyway, the thing that they did was they said, "Oh yeah, we got all of this." So now, when it came time to put up or shut up, guess what happened? They couldn't put up.
Right.
So that being the case, they couldn't put up. And now people are trying to hold them accountable for it. Now, rightfully so to a degree, rightfully so. However, the real problem is, you so high expectations, okay?
Yeah.
And you didn't know what you had, okay? And you went on ahead and drove people to that expectation. It's kind of like, being led on by a sexy little siren. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's how you handle that situation without giving the sentiment of leading them on. Okay. And that is well, let's put it simply. Look, we have this information. We have this information. It's going to take us a while to sort through this because we have no idea if any of this information have been tampered with or what have you. So what we need to do is we need to sort through it before we can even give any type of determination on what's what.
Right.
And when we make that determination, then we will tell you what's what and do whatever we can. And then if there's nothing, then you basically tell the people, it's like, look, we sorted through this. A lot of the information was destroyed. Okay.
Right.
We don't know if we can even use any of this for any type of prosecution. Okay. We will still have to sort through this and try to find anything and everything that can lead to prosecutions. Okay.
Right.
Now, yeah, I just sold you a line of bullshit, but now I don't have people breathing down my neck telling me, well, where's the files? Where's the files? No, thing is, I basically told you kind of a half truth, but it's basically what is. The fact of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, well, they got so much information, and a lot of it's missing. What can they do?
Yeah. What can they do? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, what can they do?
Right. I would say this. I know we all have faith in regards to President Trump. And then what I'm going to say is that if he can get rid of the rest of these illegals that are here, get that taken care of, and fix the situation with the unemployed. Well, I'm talking about, the unemployed. I'm gonna call them unemployment Americans, right? And if he can do that as well. So we're talking about illegals that are here, talking about the gangs and all the illegals that's here that's taking over the American jobs. If they can solve that, as well as to solve the American worker crisis. And let me see, what's my other thing that I would like to see as well? Those are two. Of course, Epstein files and things like that. Those three issues right there, if he was hitting on all three of those cylinders, do you think that he can win in the midterms by a landslide? What do you think?
As I said, there's so much malfeasance going on. You know what? I gotta move up. There's so much malfeasance going on that it's nigh impossible for him to have a quote unquote MAGA landslide. Okay, realistically, I'm gonna say this, and this is what I was talking to a few people. Next year, irrespective of what happens next, there's going to be some small amount of gain with the Republicans, right? And that is, in line with the fact that the Democrats have been shooting themselves in the foot for so long that they don't believe or think that they can lose, and hubris will be their downfall. Okay. However, they still have the mechanism in place to stuff ballots and what have you. Now, that being the case, even if Trump does all of the right steps, the mitigating factor that will prevent a quote unquote red wave or a MAGA wave is still the fact that there are still implementations and laws in certain states, such as Michigan, that will hinder the ability for a midterm upset like that. So I being a conservative observer, I can honestly say that it's going to either be a mild or moderate increase towards the Republican side. There's not going to be this big red wave. It's just not going to happen. I mean, look at we have history to dictate this. Okay, what happened in 2022? There was supposed to have been no, not 2022. Was it 20? No, yeah, no, my mistake. Yeah, it was 2022. That's right, it was 2022.
Yeah.
Well, they said, oh, big red wave in 2022.
Yeah.
And I doubted it because I said no, because as of 2021 and 2020, these Democrat and purple states implemented legislations that advantages Democrats. This is going to end up being more or less like a red jet stream where they may gain 2 or 3 seats. And I was right. They gained 2 or 3 seats. Well, in this case, if we continue on the current track, okay, Democrats will probably lose 2 seats. But if he does the right things, they might gain 5. I mean,
Right.
that's literally it. There's nothing, because of the implementation of all of these little things, to advantage Democrats. It's not going to be a red wave, no matter how you slice it. The
Right.
Democrats, the only way for there to be a significant red wave, the Democrats will have to shoot themselves in the foot so badly that the average Democrat sees them shooting themselves in the foot as an obvious misstep. That's literally the only way that can happen. And even then, you still have the vote blue no matter who out there that will continue to vote blue no matter who.
That makes a great campaign slogan. Vote blue no matter who.
Yeah. Or you have all these other people who says vote red or be dead. I don't agree with that either. I mean, I vote for whoever I think is the better candidate,
Absolutely.
regardless of what party or what have you. Anyhow, I got to run because I got to go into this office now.
Yeah, go right ahead, man. It was a pleasure having you on the stream and things like that. And yeah, we'll do it again though, and then I know you're gonna call me about some. I know you might have.
Well, we pretty much discussed everything I needed to talk to you about.
Sure, absolutely. And I appreciate it though. Like I said, man, you've been great. Thank Joe for coming in for a minute. I know he's probably out there on that John Deere right now, man. But yeah, it's all good. I have not, before you go, I mean, I know you, well, you just go ahead and go. That's cool, man. And no, I haven't talked to Sherry yet either. Have not heard from Sherry. So, okay.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. I'll holler. Yep. Yes, sir.
Bye.
Goodbye. All right, guys. That was the legend Omega. It's a pleasure having him on. We were talking about the things with Trump once again. Is he winning? That was supposed to have been a question mark, but I appreciate Omega. He really spoke his point and his viewpoints in regards to where Trump is struggling at. You know what I'm saying? Which right now it's an American worker right now. So the American worker has been displaced by foreign influx of foreign employment, if we say. And then not only that, they are undercutting the American worker. That is true, because averagely, if we look at the STEM department, architects, engineers, they make about $99,000 a year. Omega is one of them. He's an engineer, right? He's over here driving a truck, right? He's a truck driver, CDL license and all that. That's what I'm going to do, right? Because look at the rideshare industry, right? I'm going to tell you right now, guys, it's all in regards to the public transportation, rideshare as well. We got an influx of them that are working now. And the fact is that it drives the price down, just like in the engineering department. It drives it down, because why should these corporations, right, hire an American worker, right, when they can go ahead and get it from India, right? Because $65,000, $70,000 tops. They can underpay. They can give an engineer from India less. You think he's going to complain? that he's making less money? Absolutely not. He'll be happy working in America, right? Now, one good thing that Trump did do is that he upped the pricing of the H-1B visas. But what Omega made a point about this, some of your biggest donors outside, was it Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg? There's a lot of other, what's the other, you know what I'm saying? What's his name? Steve Bezos, right? These are the people, right, that we're talking about here. Because when you think about it, in these corporations, these guys can afford to pay the $100,000 a year if need to be, right, before investing in on the American worker. And that's exactly what it is, right? We're going to talk about, before I go, we're also talking about how Obama was the one that have destroyed American value as well. When we're talking about these jobs, displacement, gutted out, he gutted out our institutions, right? Gutted them out, made us totally dependent on other government or other countries, right? Instead of being America first. So there's a lot of, I'm still rah-rahing for Trump, even though there's things that we don't agree with. You can't agree with everything though, but if Trump can get the American worker back to the way it is, and then push a lot of these illegals that can't speak English and all that, because what I have heard too is that this came from the source. Came from the source when it come down to the rideshare guy out of California, and what he said is that they're going to start doing crackdowns on people, seeing if they can pass the being able to read and understand English. So not only in the truck driving industry, they're going to be doing it here for rideshare, Uber and Lyft. You see what I'm saying? So this is going to be going on. I heard this as well. And I said on the other podcast of ours, on the Rideshare Chronicles, I said it there as well too, that they're going to be coming for people that are here. And if they can't pass the English literacy test, that's going to be a problem. You see what I'm saying? They're just going to go ahead and grab them up, just like they did it with the truck drivers and so forth, right? Because you have to have some knowledge and being able to read English and understand its laws. You should not be driving a truck. You should not be handling it, because a truck is a very dangerous thing. You know yourself, you're not supposed to make no illegal U-turn with no truck. That's not supposed to happen. If you knew the English, right? Because some of them been over here for a long time. So there's no reason that you don't understand. You should know how to read English, flat out. You know, you should be able to have a level of understanding what I'm saying to you and have a comprehension, because this is an issue. Do you know, when I sit over here at the rideshare lot, there's so many of them that ride through that do not enter sign right there. They go black, they blow right by it. There's 2 signs that says do not enter, right? They go right through it. And the only reason that they're doing this type of stuff, because we know that there's an issue when it comes down to reading and understanding English. I would be afraid of being in the car, right, with a rideshare driver that do not understand basic reading English. That's a problem. It's a scary thing. So this is why they're doing the crackdown. If Trump can get this stuff under control, if he can get I'm talking about the American workers that have been displaced, if he can get that taken care of, right? If he can deal with this Antifa thing, which he is dealing with it, I think we're gonna start seeing some stuff in the first of the year once the big beautiful bill goes into effect, because now they'll have the funding to be able to put out. There's already people that are signing up by the masses. They're signing up by the droves to be ICE agents. So therefore they can come out here. They did a great job of arresting those people that put terrorist plot in Dearborn. They did a great job on that. So right now the community is under heavy surveillance. You know what I'm saying? Any type of anti-government, anti-conspiracy, anti-hatred towards America, you're going to be definitely visited. That's for sure. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you guys for watching and listening to Some Random Guy Speaks. I got a ride here, And we're going to do this again, though. I thank you guys very much. Peace. And please like, comment, and subscribe.